Heartwarming moment, receptionist discovers millionaire's hidden challenge in sign language. In the heart of Maplewood, where summer days stretched lazily and the sun painted the small town streets, Emily's world buzzed with a dedicated rhythm. The fluorescent lights of Maplewood Hospital cast a sterile glow over the small reception area, but her warmth shone brighter than any overhead bulb. A devoted 28-year-old, she navigated her demanding role with grace while carrying the burdens of caring for her elderly mother, who was fighting cancer. Each day, she felt the weight of mounting medical bills, her heart tight with worry yet determined to stand strong. The cheerful chatter of neighbors outside was a stark contrast to the mix of anxiety and hope in Emily's chest. On that fateful afternoon, Mr. Thompson walked through the hospital doors, his well-pressed suit and polished shoes marking him as someone different. The briefest moment of discomfort shadowed his eyes as he approached the desk for treatment of a minor injury. Despite the polished exterior, Emily noticed the invisible fortress around him. He was deaf, quiet in a world that overlooked him, existing in a realm where his wealth seemed to create more barriers than bridges. As she assisted him, Emily couldn't help but admire the guarded stoicism on his face. She sensed the isolation that echoed behind his eyes, the struggle to connect in a world that too often overlooked his true self. She hesitated for a moment but made a decision that would change everything. With a flick of her fingers, she introduced a language only few knew but many longed for: sign language. "Can I help you?" she signed, her hands fluid and confident. His eyes widened with surprise, then melted into gratitude. The weight of their differences faded as they began to communicate in a way that felt genuine and real, beyond the facades they both carried. Days turned into weeks as their conversations continued to deepen. Emily learned of Mr. Thompson's profound loneliness, his longing for connections unfettered by assumptions about wealth. He yearned for someone to see beyond the dollar signs, and she, with her compassion, gifted him that very view. In those stolen moments, they shed their layers of fears and vulnerabilities, forming a bond that neither had expected. However, the pressures on Emily mounted as her mother's health deteriorated, the doctors advising an urgent surgery that lingered just out of reach financially. The dread twisted in her stomach. Pride clashed with desperation. Could she reach out to Mr. Thompson for help? As tension simmered, she faced her own internal conflict, wondering if wealth truly equated to the ability to help or merely masked the insecurities within. Before she could spiral too deep into her thoughts, she decided it was time to confront Mr. Thompson. Anxiety clawed at her insides as she laid out her dilemma. In that raw moment, with tears threatening to spill, he shared his own struggle, a longing for acceptance despite his wealth. His confession echoed in the empty halls, a powerful connection forged in shared honesty. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emily and Mr. Thompson ventured deeper into their stories, the small-town atmosphere buzzed with anticipation for the upcoming community fundraiser. A collective spirit ignited as neighbors rallied to support Emily, but beneath this wave of compassion, unrecognized emotions danced between the two. Could Mr. Thompson step into the role of a savior, not just in terms of wealth, but also as a friend? Would Emily's mother receive the care she so desperately needed? The air thickened with urgency as their lives entwined, leaving readers yearning for what would come next, as hope flickered in their hearts like a candle in the dark. It was the day of the fundraiser, and the community center was alive with laughter, vibrant banners, and the sweet scent of freshly baked goods wafting through the air. Tables were adorned with colorful flowers, and residents buzzed with excitement as they prepared for Emily's cause. The energy felt electric, a hopeful embrace for a family in need, and Emily couldn't help but feel touched by the love pouring in from every corner. As she moved through the crowd, a mix of anxiety and gratitude turned her heart into a storm of emotions. Emily wore an apron, helping wherever she could, catching glimpses of familiar faces who volunteered their time and efforts. Yet, even surrounded by friends and neighbors, she felt an undeniable weight. Her mother was still in limbo, battling her pain while Emily stayed fixed on the fundraiser as her last hope. Across the room, Mr. Thompson stood a little apart, his eyes scanning the lively event. He was out of his element, the formal suit seeming out of place in the chaotic warmth of Maplewood. However, as their gazes met, a sense of understanding washed over them. He moved toward her, determination etched across his face. "Thank you for inviting me," he signed with a sincerity that made Emily's heart swell. His presence comforted her. In this sea of community support, he was the anchor she didn't know she needed. They began counting donations together, their fingers dancing in a fluent conversation, laughter bubbling up as they shared moments of lightness amidst the heaviness of their fears. Emily could feel an unusual camaraderie with him, one that she had never anticipated. Disparities in wealth aside, here was a man who understood her struggles. But even within the joy, doubt clung to her heart. Would she be able to ask him for help after all they had shared? As the evening wore on, Emily took a deep breath. "Can I ask you something?" She signed, her hands hesitating before the words formed in the air. He looked at her, curious, and nodded. I really need financial help for my mom's surgery." The urgency tumbled from her fingers, a raw admission that echoed between them. Mr. Thompson's expression shifted as he absorbed her words. For a split second, she feared she had ruined everything. But instead, his face softened, revealing layers of emotion she hadn't seen before. "I will help," he signed, his hands steady, filled with conviction. Relief washed over Emily, but it was quickly mingled with guilt. "But you don't have to," she replied, panic lacing her fingers. This was not just about monetary assistance, it was about acceptance and connection. Would she still be able to maintain their friendship now that a transaction lay between them? He captured Emily's gaze, a fierce sincerity shimmering in his eyes. "I want to help. No one should suffer alone. It's not just money, it's about sharing burdens." In that crowded hall, their connection solidified, their individual struggles intertwining like threads woven into a new tapestry. But as the chatter and music faded into the background, a feeling churned within Emily. Would accepting help from Mr. Thompson change the fabric of their friendship forever? Would she ever be able to repay him? Suddenly, a voice boomed through the crowd, announcing that they had reached their fundraising goal, but Emily's mind was elsewhere, wrapped up in her swirling thoughts. This victory felt overshadowed by the uncertainty of their new dynamic. As the crowd cheered, Emily caught sight of Mr. Thompson again, his face breaking into a smile filled with warmth and encouragement. Maybe this was a turning point, a chance for both of them to heal and grow. But as they celebrated, she knew a reckoning was coming. What if her acceptance led to a bond that would shatter everything she thought she knew about love and friendship? With her heart racing and hope mingling with uncertainty, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What lay ahead could change their lives forever. As the evening rolled on, the celebration surged like a tide, laughter echoing around the community center. Emily felt the warmth of the crowd, but inside, a storm brewed. She accepted Mr. Thompson's offer, her whole being quaking with the weight of that decision. Was it simply a lifeline, or the start of something that might complicate everything she held dear? The festivities continued, colors swirling, and music playing, but Emily felt detached, as if she were watching from behind glass. Her hands, still buzzing from the signing they had shared, trembled slightly. She glanced at Mr. Thompson, who was deep in conversation with others, his charisma pulling people in like a magnet. He caught her gaze again, and this time, he smiled, a genuine, vulnerable smile that made her heart feel heavy. "Hey, you okay?" A friendly voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Sarah, a fellow volunteer whose bright spirit always lifted Emily's mood. "Yeah, just thinking," Emily replied, forcing a smile. "Come on. We need to celebrate. You did an amazing job organizing all this." Sarah nudged her playfully, trying to draw her back into the current of enthusiasm. Thanks. Emily hesitated. I just keep thinking about my mom and how this all connects. What if accepting help changes things? Sarah raised an eyebrow as if she wasn't sure how to respond. You deserve help, Em. Think about it like this: you're not just accepting money. You're allowing someone to be part of your life, part of your fight. It's not a transaction, it's a partnership. Emily nodded, but the gnawing uncertainty wouldn't leave her. Could she allow herself to lean on someone else? As she moved away from the crowd, searching for a moment of quiet, she found herself near a window. Outside, the stars twinkled like millions of tiny wishes. Yet, every twinkle felt like a reminder of how fragile hopes could be. She breathed in deeply, trying to center herself. After a few moments, Mr. Thompson found her. The noise of the fundraiser faded into the background, and it was just the two of them, a bubble of intimacy in a bustling world. You seem lost in thought, he signed, concern etched on his face. I am just worried about how things will change, she admitted, her fingers feeling awkward and raw as they moved. His expression softened. Change can be scary, but it can also open doors. You'll always have control of your story. Take the help, and it won't change who you are. There was a depth in his words, a wisdom that soothed Emily's fears like a balm on a wound. In that moment, something shifted inside her. What if she could redefine the boundaries of their friendship, reshape it into something stronger through shared burdens? Thanks, Mr. Thompson, she signed, her hands moving slowly, meaningfully. I'd like to be friends before anything else. Can we just be ourselves? His smile widened, a spark igniting in his eyes. Of course. Friends it is. They shared a connection that felt different now, but also deeper. It was a commitment to support one another, not just in times of triumph but also in vulnerability. As the night drew on and laughter danced through the air again, Emily felt the heaviness in her heart begin to lighten. She looked around at the joy, the community rallying together. Could this actually work? Yet, as she leaned into her newfound confidence, a shadow flickered at the edge of her joy, a sudden reminder that storms don't always pass without leaving some debris behind. She felt a tremor run through her heart. What if opening this door welcomed not just hope, but challenges she couldn't foresee? And why did she sense that there was more to Mr. Thompson than he let on? She shook her head, trying to dispel the unease, but it lingered like a distant echo. Just then, across the room, a commotion broke out at the donation table. Emily's stomach tightened as she turned to see what was happening. A family member of a donor was arguing with one of the volunteers, urgency and desperation weaving through their raised voices. In that instant, Emily's heart raced again. What was unfolding? As she stepped closer, she couldn't shake the feeling that this night was about to unveil more than just a fundraiser. Something deeper was waiting to unravel, something that could change everything. Emily moved through the crowd with her heart pounding, the noise from the celebration fading into a dull hum. She reached the donation table just as the raised voices grew sharper, cutting through the jovial atmosphere like a knife. What do you mean they're not accepting the funds? The woman's voice was desperate, but the volunteer at the table stood firm, her brow furrowed. Emily recognized Rachel, a friend from the organizing team. They're saying the donation is conditional, and their essay stipulation it's complicated. I wish I could help more, Rachel replied, her words clipped as bewilderment flickered across her face. Emily glanced at the donor's family member, a woman with tears glistening in her eyes. It was impossible not to feel her pain, to see the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. She stepped closer, catching snippets of their conversation. Those funds could save my son's life. You don't understand, we need that money. The woman's voice cracked, and the room fell into a hush, curiosity replacing laughter. Feeling a sudden rush of determination, Emily approached Rachel. What is going on? How can we help? Rachel shook her head, panic creeping into her voice. They're refusing the donation because it has a clause requiring the donation to go toward specific treatments. But the family needs flexibility for their son's care. Emily's heart raced as she listened. It felt like a punch to her stomach. This was much bigger than a fundraiser. "Can I talk to the family?" she asked, her own fears falling away in the face of this urgent need. Before Rachel could respond, Emily stepped forward, her heart leading the way. "Excuse me," she signed, hoping the family would understand her intentions. "I'm so sorry for what you're going through. How can we help?" The woman looked surprised, her eyes widening at the unfamiliar language. "My son is really sick. We thought this money would pay for the treatment he needs. If we can't use it the way we want." Her voice wavered, a sob barely contained. Emily felt a surge of empathy. "You deserve the choice to decide how best to help him. We can talk to the committee. We can push them to change it." With a flicker of hope, the woman nodded, gratefulness washing over her face. "Really? You think they'll listen?" "I believe they will." Emily felt a strange warmth blossom in her chest. In that moment, her worries about her own situation, the uncertainty about Mr. Thompson's involvement, faded away. This was about them now, about helping. "I'll go find Mr. Thompson," she said, feeling a new sense of purpose. He might have the influence needed to push through the change. As she hurried away, she could hear the murmurs from others in the crowd. They were rallying around the scene, suddenly more aware of what was happening. This was not just a fundraiser, it felt like a battle for lives, hope and humanity colliding. She spotted Mr. Thompson, his tall frame making him easy to find amidst the tumult. He noticed her urgency and stepped away from the group. "Emily. What's wrong?" His face was a mixture of concern and curiosity. "There's a family here, they need the funds, but the donation has limitations. We have to change it. They deserve the freedom to choose how to use the money," she explained, her hands moving quickly, fueled by adrenaline. His brow furrowed, and for a moment, Emily feared he might dismiss her. But then, his expression hardened with resolve. "We'll talk to them. We'll find a way to make this right." As they walked back together, Emily felt a spark of hope ignite. But just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. The screen lit up with an unknown number. She glanced at Mr. Thompson. Was this unexpected call somehow connected to everything that was unfolding? The tension settled over her like a heavy blanket. What if this call changed everything again, adding more complications to the already tangled web around her? Should she answer it now, or focus on the matter at hand? With every step, she felt the weight of the night intensifying, her heart racing with uncertainty and anticipation. Would this decision she was about to make be one that would alter the course of her life forever? Emily's heart raced as she stared at the glowing screen. The unknown number pulsed, almost mocking the urgency of the moment. She felt Mr. Thompson's presence beside her, a pillar of strength, but she also sensed her own desire, a kind of recklessness. What if this call held answers, or worse, distractions? "Just a second," she whispered, stepping a little farther away. The murmur of the crowd faded, leaving her in a bubble of anticipation. She answered, her hands already twitching in nervous energy. "Hello." Her voice sounded uncertain, its volume swallowed by the bustling celebration around her. "Emily." The voice on the other end was deep and smooth, a stark contrast to her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. "It's Marcus. You don't know me, but I have something important to discuss regarding the fundraiser." Emily's pulse quickened further. This was the Marcus she'd heard about, the enigmatic billionaire behind many charitable initiatives, often rumored to have his own motives hidden beneath layers of wealth and influence. "What is this about?" she asked, keeping a measured tone, trying to give nothing away. "I've been following the work your team is doing. I know about the family struggling for their son's treatment," Marcus explained, his tone sharper now. "And I believe I can help." "Help?" Emily echoed, feeling a glimmer of hope flare within her. But just as quickly, doubt crept in like a shadow. But they're refusing the funds. It's complicated. I know, he said, his voice steady. And that's why I want to meet you. There are ways to redirect the donations without the committee's knowledge, but you need to trust me. Trust? The word tasted bitter in her mouth. What kind of man would use donations in secret, even if his goal was altruistic? She thought about the family, their pain, their fight. I can't just go along without knowing more. They deserve transparency. I understand, he said gently. But time is crucial. This family doesn't have the luxury of waiting for red tape. As Emily listened to him, her thoughts raced, battling her growing desire to help. She could sense Mr. Thompson, ever perceptive, hovering close by, likely overhearing her part of the conversation. What would he think? Would they see Marcus as a potential hero or a wolf in sheep's clothing? What do you propose? She asked, tilting her head a bit, sensing something more. Meet me at the cafe around the corner in 10 minutes. I'll explain everything in detail. This is about saving lives, Emily. The urgency in his voice trembled against the backdrop of the celebration. I need to just think about it. I hope you make the right choice. The call ended, plunging her into silence. Emily turned to glance at Mr. Thompson, who was now looking at her with an eyebrow raised. Who was that? He asked, his voice low but full of curiosity. No one, she lied, hesitantly shaking her head as a mix of guilt and necessity swirled within her. Something else on your mind? You know you can talk to me. But could she? This felt bigger than her. There was a lifeline offered, perhaps a lifeline joined by strings she couldn't see. I have to go, she blurted out before she could second-guess herself, the decision spilling from her lips in a rush of adrenaline. The moment hung between them, electric and unresolved. Go where? He asked, concern knitting his brow. The cafe. I have to meet someone. For the family. Who was she trying to convince, him or herself? As she turned away, the vibrant lights of the celebration flickered in her peripheral vision, a poignant reminder of the lives at stake. Would they support her decision, loyalty stretching into uncertain realms? Taking a deep breath, she moved forward, but doubt trailed behind her like a heavy shadow. What was Marcus really after? And once she stepped into that cafe, would she be able to turn back? The stakes felt higher than ever, and now the clock was ticking. The cafe buzzed with life, a swirl of laughter and clinking cups that made the air feel warm. Emily stepped through the door, her heart pounding like a drum. The aroma of coffee mixed with pastries enveloped her, momentarily grounding her in a world that felt comforting yet anxiety-inducing. She scanned the room, searching for Marcus. There he was, seated at a corner table, his tall frame relaxed yet alert. He had an air about him, composed and charismatic, his dark hair slightly tousled. Emily hesitated, her instincts screaming caution, but the thought of that family, the little boy waiting for treatment, urged her forward. Are you Marcus? She asked as she reached his table, trying to sound confident even though her voice shook. Emily, he replied, standing and extending a hand. I'm glad you made it. She shook his hand, feeling an unexpected warmth in his grip. It felt as if they were two players in a game with stakes higher than either of them had signed up for. Let's get straight to it. You mentioned you could help the family? Emily asked, locking her gaze onto his, searching for any hint of deception. Marcus nodded, leaning in as he spoke. I know the committee's rules, but after researching the situation, I've devised a way to ensure the funds reach them without raising alarms. It's a complex process, but I believe this boy deserves a chance. What's the catch? Emily questioned, her eyes narrowing. She wasn't about to jump headfirst into something that could end in disaster. No catch, just urgency. Their desperation is real, and if we don't act quickly, they'll miss out on a necessary treatment. He paused, watching her reaction closely. I know my proposal seems reckless, but sometimes you have to bend the rules to save a life. She felt a surge of hope but countered it with scrutiny. But what about the ethics of it? The family deserves to know where the money is coming from. I can't support something that feels secretive. Ethics? He echoed, his smooth tone turning heated. Do you think they care how the help arrives? They just want to save their son. If you want to argue about ethics, we'll lose time that this family doesn't have. Emily swallowed hard, the tension between them thickening. She chanced a glance around the cafe. A young couple laughed in one corner, adults pored over laptops in another. Their lives glided by oblivious to the struggle she was now part of. Look, Marcus continued, his voice softer now, almost pleading. I admire your passion for transparency, but in this case, speed is essential. They wouldn't care how we obtained the funds, they'd just be grateful for the help. Can you allow yourself to be part of something bigger? The weight of his words settled in her chest. Could she truly look the other way, knowing how badly this family needed the resources? I need to think, she replied, feeling the weight of every word. This isn't just about numbers on a page, it could ruin lives if things go south. What if it saves lives? He countered gently, his eyes intense. Emily, you have the chance to make a real change here. Will you let fear dictate your choices? She stared at him, wrestling with the decision. Her heart raced not just from doubt, but from the thrilling potential to help, yet the fear nagged at her like a persistent itch. We all have to make hard choices, Marcus said, his voice low and persuasive. Will you stand on the sidelines, or will you step up? As the cafe continued its vibrant dance around her, the world faded, her thoughts swirling in a maze of possibilities. She felt like she was teetering on a precipice, ready to leap into a decision that could change everything. And just then, a loud crash echoed from outside, drawing the attention of everyone in the cafe. Emily's heart dropped as she turned, fear igniting within her core. What had just happened? Would her choice to engage with Marcus lead to salvation or ruin, and now, what chaos lay ahead? Emily's heart raced as the sharp sound of shattered glass filled the air. Disparate voices in the cafe rose in urgent whispers, and she could feel her pulse pounding in her ears, drowning out the growing stir outside. For a split second, she couldn't move, her body frozen as she tried to register the scene unfolding just beyond the glass door. Marcus shot a glance toward the commotion, then shifted his focus back to her. Stay here. He instructed, urgency lacing his tone as he pushed his chair back and rose swiftly to his feet. Before she could respond, he was already striding toward the door, his tall frame cutting through the crowd of curious patrons. Emily clenched her fists, caught between a desire to follow him and the instinct to stay put. But her feet found their will, and she moved to join him, slipping past the tables with her heart hammering louder than before. The door burst open, releasing a wave of noise that mixed with the shouts of pedestrians and hushed cries. Outside, chaos reigned, cars slammed to a halt, and a small group seemed to be huddled together. Emily squeezed her way through the gathering crowd, her stomach churning with anxiety. As they reached the front, she caught sight of a broken storefront window, shards of glass scattered across the pavement like jagged stars. An overturned bicycle lay against the wall and someone was kneeling close to the ground, cradling a child's head in their lap. Call an ambulance. A voice shouted nearby, and Emily's instincts kicked in. A boy maybe 8 years old lay on the ground, his face pale and his eyes fluttering uncertainly. Her breath caught, and all thoughts of ethical dilemmas vanished. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was real. She felt Marcus beside her, his expression now tense and determined as he assessed the situation. What can we do? She asked, her mind racing to comprehend the urgency. Keep the crowd back, he instructed firmly, stepping forward to crouch next to the boy. Look at me, buddy. You're gonna be okay. Can you tell me your name? The child blinked slowly, even as a trickle of blood began to seep from a gash on his forehead. Tommy, he whispered, his voice shaky. The moment struck like lightning, igniting the compassion in Emily's chest. She knelt down, reaching for the boy's hand. "You're gonna be all right, Tommy. Help is on the way. Just breathe." She felt the warmth of his small fingers as he squeezed her hand, and something in that simple gesture filled her with a sense of purpose. Marcus glanced up, catching her eye. "We need to keep him still," he said decisively, then directed his attention back to Tommy. "Can you tell me where it hurts?" As the boy pointed weakly to his head, Emily reached for her phone. Adrenaline surged through her. She had to do more. The trembling uncertainty that had gripped her moments ago fell away as her fingers flew over the screen. She located the emergency number and dialed, all while keeping her focus on Tommy. Amid the sirens approaching in the distance, Emily's heart sank as she remembered her earlier confrontation with Marcus. Was this the moment she would finally make a real choice? Was this where her path began to intertwine with others, leading to greater connections and humanity? Or would this lead her into further complexity, compromised principles gnawing at her conscience down the line? The sirens grew louder, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope mixed with fear, a volatile blend that could turn everything upside down. As paramedics arrived on the scene, everything happened in a frantic rush of uniforms and medical equipment, and Emily held her breath. What would come next? Would she have the courage to face not just the consequences of her choices but the truths that had yet to unfold? Just as she began to wrap her mind around everything, the paramedic's voice broke her thoughts. "Do you have any information on what happened here?" In that moment, the weight of decisions loomed heavy, and she realized that a far bigger crisis awaited her just past the aftermath of today's chaos. Could her involvement spiral out of control? And when she noticed a familiar face watching from the fringes of the crowd, the question lingered: was this all connected in ways she could never have predicted? Emily blinked, momentarily lost as she spotted that familiar face, Tina, her old high school friend, standing at the edge of the crowd. Her heart plummeted. What was Tina doing here? They hadn't spoken in years, and she had heard whispers about Tina's struggles in the time since they had lost touch. But now, the chaos drew a line between their past friendships and the unfolding tragedy, pressing down against her chest. The paramedics worked swiftly, moving Tommy onto a stretcher. Emily felt herself rising, her legs almost carrying her toward Tina, yet she hesitated. What could she say? Would it even matter in this moment? "Ma'am, we need to move back." A voice interrupted her thoughts, snapping her back to the present as a paramedic waved her away from the scene. Emily glanced over at Marcus, who was still focused on Tommy, whispering reassurances to him. In this storm of emotion, she noticed that even as panic swirled around them, he remained unshaken, a rock for everyone present. "Hold on, buddy," the paramedic said gently as they placed an oxygen mask over Tommy's mouth. "You've been very brave. We're gonna take care of you." Emily's throat tightened as Tommy's small hand slipped from hers. There was a sickening sensation of helplessness washing over her. She had wanted to be a comfort, to impart some strength. But it was all spiraling under her feet. The crowd began to disperse slightly, whispers turning to discussions about what had happened. Emily felt a pull to Tina, but in the fray, they were mere shadows of their former selves. Still, there was something about the way Tina looked, concern etched into her face, that made Emily take a step closer. Suddenly, Tina's eyes met hers. There was a flicker of recognition, quickly flicked with apprehension. The swirling chaos around them knit a connection that had seemed lost. Just then, a sharp gasp caught Emily's attention. She turned, scanning the crowd for the source. A woman had collapsed onto the pavement, her face pale, as she cradled a baby in her arms. Panic seized Emily again, like a vice that wouldn't let go. The baby wrapped in a bright blue blanket stirred. "My baby!" the woman cried, her voice breaking the hushed murmurs. Without thinking, Emily rushed to the woman's side, her instincts kicking in once more. I'm here," she murmured, kneeling down beside her. "What happened?" The woman's eyes widened in fear. Wake up. Please, help. Time seemed to stretch as Emily looked down at the baby's tiny face, so peaceful against the chaos that surrounded them. It was a stark contrast, a reminder of innocence, of all the things that mattered. Did she have the strength to help, to be the change they all needed in this moment? As she glanced back at Marcus, he met her gaze, a silent question hanging between them. Together they had faced turmoil before, but this felt different. This was life, fragile as glass. Suddenly, a beam of light pierced through her chaos-infused thoughts. Maybe this was the change, a chance to act, to connect, to fight against staggering odds. Taking a deep breath, Emily gathered her thoughts and focused. "We need to assess him," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. From somewhere at the edges of her mind, a feeling grew stronger. The connections she had feared were only threads weaving into something more intricate. This moment wasn't just a coincidence, it felt like a turning point in her life, a call to awaken truths she had ignored. Tina approached, casting a look of determination. "What do we need to do?" The question hung in the air, urgent and heavy with potential. This was it. With the cries of the baby and shouts of emergency vehicles in the backdrop, Emily nodded slowly. "We fight for them," she whispered, moving into action, knowing that every decision now mattered more than ever. The enormity of it all pressed down on her. Was she ready to brave this new path, knowing the shadows of her past loomed close? Just then, amidst everything, she caught sight of a twinkle of light among the shards of glass scattered on the ground, a glimpse of possibility, reflecting a glimmer of hope. And that spark ignited a question deep inside her: what else had she been blind to? What truths lurked in the corners, waiting to be uncovered? Emily moved instinctively, her mind racing as she knelt next to the woman and the baby. She could feel the urgency impending in every heartbeat around them. "Can you tell me your baby's name?" she asked gently, trying to establish some kind of connection amid the chaos. The woman's eyes were wide with fear. "Lucas," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please, I don't know what to do." "Okay, Lucas," Emily said, glancing anxiously at Marcus, who was now inching closer to help. "We're going to take care of him. Just hold on." She steadied her breath, her hands steadying the blanket around the baby. The warmth of the tiny body brought a flicker of calm to the turmoil sparking within her. "Can you feel his pulse?" Emily asked, nodding toward Marcus. He immediately stepped in, his hands gently moving to the baby's wrist while Emily kept her focus on the mother. The woman shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. He want to wake up, please, help him." As frustration and fear surged through Emily, she steeled herself. They had trained for situations like this in school, she had to put that knowledge to work. "I need you to remain calm, okay?" Emily's voice was firm but compassionate. "We're going to check for signs of breathing." Marcus looked at Emily, understanding the unsaid urgency spiraling between them. They were fighting against time, and every second counted. Suddenly, Tina knelt down on the other side, her brow furrowed with concentration. "What can I do? Can you help keep her calm?" "Just talk to her, make sure she knows we're here for them," Emily said, grateful for the unexpected support from her old friend. Tina took a deep breath and focused on the woman. "You've got this, okay? We're here, and we're not going anywhere." With a newfound determination, Emily gently turned Lucas over. She whispered, "You have to wake up, little one," her hands cradling his tiny back. She felt a flicker of warmth under her palm, a sign of life still dancing within him. "Okay, Lucas," she breathed, her voice steady and full of quiet strength. "I need you to take a deep breath for me." Time became elastic under the weight of her desperation. Every noise, the wailing sirens, muffled voices in the distance, felt both close and far away as she became consumed with Lucas and his mother, binding her attention solely to them. The baby stirred and let out a faint cry, breaking the tension coiling in the air. A collective breath was shared among them, a sigh of hope. Emily's heart soared, fighting the instinct to allow despair to cloud her vision. "See. He can hear you," Tina encouraged, her voice breaking as relief washed over her. Emily connected eyes with her for a brief moment, both women feeling the same pulse of hope sparking between them. But then, just as quickly as the joy surged through the moment, it was interrupted. A figure pushed through the crowd. Emily's heart plunged again as she recognized it was Tommy's father, a man with desperation etched across his face. "Where's my son?" he shouted, fear clawing at his throat. Emily's stomach twisted. The reality of the moment struck her like a punch. "He's with the paramedics, they're taking care of him," she called back, trying to keep her voice steady. And then, like an avalanche, emotions surged once again. The mother's eyes flickered with new worry as she watched the confrontation unfold. The baby in Emily's arms shifted slightly, as if responding to the tension. "Hey, it's okay," Emily said absent-mindedly, diverting her whole focus back to Lucas. He needed her. But Tommy's father continued to shout, demanding answers, blindsided by panic. Emily could feel her own fears bubbling back up, and a dread began to settle over the scene. What other stories lurked around them? Would she be able to help everyone in time? As reality threatened to crash down, Emily tightly wrapped her arms around Lucas and made her choice. She would not be another shadow in this chaos. Steeling herself, she shouted, "We are not going to let fear win today." And in that moment, new determination sparked within her. What came next was unclear, but she couldn't let uncertainty guide her any longer. In the depths of her heart, a question tugged at her: would they stand together, confronting the storm that loomed ahead? Chaos twisted around Emily, pulling her mind in different directions as the reality of the scene hit home. Just moments ago, she was grappling with her own fears, but now, purpose surged through her. With the baby, Lucas, cradled against her heart, she could feel that she had to be the bridge amid the surrounding despair. "Listen," Emily called, her voice slicing through the noise. "We can't let panic tear us apart. There's help coming for both Tommy and Lucas. We need to stay strong." Her passion spilled out, igniting hope even as uncertainty crackled in the air. The crowd fell silent, drawn in by Emily's fierce spirit. The mother of Lucas, who had been trembling with worry, caught Emily's gaze and returned a flicker of trust, a bond formed amid adversity. Emily felt the rush of responsibility weave deeper into her bones. She had to guide them, not just Tommy's father, but all of them navigating a sea of fear. "I promise you, your son is in safe hands. We're in this together," she declared, looking Tommy's father straight in the eye. He faltered, wavering between the precipice of worry and her unwavering conviction. The hesitation on his face spoke volumes. He needed reassurance, and she wasn't going to back down. Tina stepped forward, a supportive force as they shared a glance that silently communicated unity. "We got this," she said, her voice steady. "We're fighting for our families, and we're all together here." Emily breathed in the moment, feeling the collective heartbeat of the crowd tune in as though they, too, had become a part of this incredible wave of connection. She realized that this situation transcended the boundaries of personal struggles. In these moments of crisis, humanity glimmered in the most unexpected forms. Just as the sirens blared closer, a calm settled over Emily. Help was on the way, and she was surrounded by people willing to lend strength to this fight. She exchanged a look with Marcus, who was busy organizing the remaining crowd, guiding them toward order, a glimmer of admiration in his eyes. The connection deepened. They were more than allies, they were participants in a collective battle against despair. With renewed purpose, Emily turned her focus back to Lucas, gently cradling him. "You're going to be okay, Lucas. You're so brave," she whispered, her expression fierce and tender. The warmth of his little body boosted her spirits and anchored her confidence. Moments ticked by, heavy with anticipation, as Tommy's father's expression shifted. Gradually, he nodded, taking in the hope that anchored like an anchor inside of him. "Thank you," he breathed, his voice trembling but steadier now. I just want him to be okay." The atmosphere pulsed with energy, ready for the arrival of help. The paramedics burst into view, slicing through the mass of bodies, gathering attention as they arrived for Tommy and Lucas. Emily waved them over, urgency buzzing in her fingertips. The paramedics wasted no time, assessing the situation swiftly. "We've got this," one of them called out, kneeling by Tommy, who was being attended to. They worked with practiced efficiency, a calming force amid the turmoil. The mother of Lucas watched, tears slipping down her cheeks not from despair, but from a swell of hope. "He'll be all right," Emily assured her, her voice firm as she shared a meaningful glance that spoke of camaraderie. Across the shifting crowd, the tension began to dissipate, giving way to an overwhelming sense of unity. Emily felt herself standing taller, heart beating fast with a sense of being part of something much larger than herself. What had become a night of turmoil now shimmered with the potential for connection and healing. This was what she had wanted, wasn't it? To belong, to be part of the solution rather than a bystander caught in the whirlwind. As the paramedics worked diligently, Emily caught another glimpse of Marcus. He was speaking with Tommy's father now, offering him reassurance, guidance, not imposing but standing by a powerful ally in a time of need. "Thank you for coming," Lucas' mother whispered, her tearful smile breaking through the clouds of uncertainty. "I don't know what I would have done without you." "It's what we do," Emily replied softly, a gentle reminder that they weren't alone. "This is a team effort." As the emergency team prepped their transport, the sound of sirens began to fade into harmony with those who gathered nearby. They were sharing moments, support, and even laughter, finding light in the darkness that had threatened to engulf them moments before. Then, the weight of past fears and dilemmas began to lift, revealing endless possibilities. Emily turned to Tina, and that uneasy burden seemed to vanish as their eyes connected. What had once felt heavy was now full of resilience. And as they stood there, surrounded by those they had fought for, Emily felt an epiphany settle over her. This was a transformation not just for herself, or only for those in need but for all of them. It was a shift from isolation to community, a family built in the face of struggle and profound vulnerability, where no one had to stand alone. With hope blooming wildly like spring flowers in a desolate landscape of winter, Emily felt the warmth of human spirit break through like golden sunlight. This was where her journey had led her. A path not marked just by personal battles, but also connections forged in compassion, trust, and strength. Every moment of doubt she held had culminated into this, a shared humanity that emerged from the chaos, illuminated by a simple truth: together, they could face anything. As the crowd dispersed, following the paramedics and filled with renewed energy, Emily accepted Marcus' outstretched hand. She realized she had every intention of building bridges from one soul to another, not just in this singular moment, but far beyond tonight's horizon. The journey ahead would be vital, but the heart of Maplewood shone brighter than any struggle faced, anchoring them in the essence of community. As she stepped into what lay ahead, a voice in her heart echoed powerfully: they were profoundly stronger together. Now, with her heart full of new possibilities, Emily stepped forward into a promising tomorrow. And so the story unfolds, a testament to resilience and shared strength, a promise of light even among the shadows. If you're ready for more stories that inspire transformation and connection, this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to hit that subscribe button, because you need to subscribe now. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It might just change their lives.